Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about my thoughts on Star Trek Starfleet Academy show poster. So, the trailer for this has been out for a while, about a couple of months or so, or maybe a month or two. And so, when I saw the trailer for the Starfleet Academy show, I could kind of tell it wasn't for me. You know what I'm saying? It felt more like a teen drama romance type show where everybody's just wanting to hook up with everybody. Then this picture came out, and the first thing that went through my mind when I saw this was this looks like something off the CW, maybe back in the day the WB. It looks like a teen drama or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Very One Tree Hill, very 90210, very Melrose Place, like something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's throwing off that kind of vibe. And it just does not remind me of the Star Trek I grew up with. And sadly, that is the problem for me because I just love classic old Trek. That's just who I am. I don't care. Like I remember I saw somebody in the comment section on some video. I can't remember what the title of the video was. I was watching somebody else's YouTube channel. And they say that a bunch of grandpas can't get over that Star Trek has changed and it's not for them anymore. Well, with that all said, I do have thoughts on that. I do have thoughts on of course why this looks the way it does, feel the way it does, and why it's disconnecting with a lot of Star Trek fans and the new audience in which this is for. So every once in a while on my channel, I talk Star Trek. I haven't started really doing no older reviews. I'm going to start one day because I love classic Trek, but I just haven't really gotten into that yet. And mostly I just review the newer stuff that's out because it's out. And so for me, I grew up in the 80s. That's when I was a little kid. I started with Star Trek The Next Generation. It is my all-time favorite Star Trek series. I think it is the best. I think it encapsulates everything Gene Roddenberry wanted to show in Star Trek, or at least he could get away with in the 90s and stuff. And so I remember growing up in elementary, nobody ever talked about Star Trek. Then I think it was in middle school of all places, something interesting happened. I met a group of guys from my class who actually love Star Trek. So we talked about it and stuff like that. That's kind of how I became one of those people, when you're in PE, instead of participating in PE, you just stand by a tree with a bunch of the kids who hate sports. I became one of those people, not because I hated sports, because I used to love playing them growing up, but it's just because I wanted to stand underneath the tree with a bunch of people talking about Star Trek. And so it was cool to find somebody to talk Trek about, you know what I'm saying? Then in high school, nobody really talked about Star Trek except for those same guys and everything. But I remember one time me and somebody got into a debate in chemistry class about which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars. And I said, well, Star Wars feel more like fantasy, knights at a round table, defeating a Tortarian unit and stuff like that. Where Star Trek just feels real. It's military, it's science, they use real scientific terms and everything. It just feels more real and everything, but in a fantasy fiction, science fiction kind of way. Well, my chemistry teacher liked what she heard and gave me a chemistry book. I'm just kind of okay, what the heck I'm supposed to do with this? But I could tell she was a science fiction person too. And growing up, there are two different types of shows that I can recall that where people will get made fun of if they watch Power Rangers or if they watch some type of space oddity. like Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, what is that, Earth Final Conflict or something like that. Basically, all the cool kids don't like science fiction. Let me repeat this. The cool kids growing up did not like science fiction. Let me repeat this just one more time for good measure. The cool kids did not like science fiction. So, there's a reason why I said that 3 times. Is that, there's a certain fan base for everything. If you like things like The Walking Dead, then you're going to watch more stuff like zombie related. If you like crime dramas, you're probably gonna watch like Law and Order. If you like shows that are like what them things called, like court procedures and stuff like that, you're probably gonna watch The Practice. And so everybody has their own thing. And when it comes to sci-fi, there are a group of sci-fi fans that just like sci-fi type stuff. It's back in like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, stuff like that catered to those people because they knew who they was marketing to. One great thing about like just the world of streaming is that you get a plethora of like different like taste in things. Like you have a little bit of everything, and because you have a little bit of everything, you're having new people trying to come in and like watch it, which is great. They get to experience it. There's this one guy who's a huge Power Rangers fan, and like I said before, I don't really like naming like YouTubers and stuff, but he's a nice guy. But he always talks Power Rangers, and he revealed that like he never watched Star Trek before until he watched Next Generation, and now he loves Star Trek and he watches a lot of the newer stuff. And he would never watch a lot of the newer stuff if it wasn't for Star Trek Next Generation. And he still feels Next Generation is the best, but he still watches other stuff. And with every fandom, it starts to die out. And even Star Trek starts to die out after a while. Like, when Enterprise came around, a lot of people wasn't really interested in going like about 200 years back in the past, you know? And so a lot of people just didn't like Enterprise at that time. Then I think Star Trek took a hiatus for about 8, 9, 10 years, and then the JJ stuff started coming out. And it reignited like, Star Trek again, for better or for worse. And of course, because that was a movie, they had to cater not to just like sci-fi fans, because sci-fi fans had just pretty much given up on Star Trek after a while. They started catering to other people, which is why, and of course, because it's a movie, you gotta expand it to other audiences. So they made it more action-packed. They made it more gritty. And it worked. That formula worked so well that like Star Trek Discovery took note, and so did New Trek. Now Star Trek was no longer catered to like the older Trekkies and stuff. Now it was catered to like everybody else. So, but of course there was a problem with that. Now, and it's kind of the same problem a little bit with Star Wars is going through on Disney Plus. They're not catering to those older fans from like the 70s. They're trying to cater to everybody else. And because of that, it has caused a disconnect throughout that fandom. And so they're more so catering to everybody else and not so much to the hardcore like Star Wars fans and what their older movies used to stand for, the dialogue, the pacing, stuff like that. I know one person who the YouTuber, he doesn't like the flashy, over choreographed like lightsaber fights. He's much older than me, I think. He likes it from back in like the 70s. It was slower paced. So slow paced, my God. But that's what he likes, you know what I'm saying? And his logic for liking it was that he feels that the Force is just something that like, that only a true Jedi can master. And a lightsaber takes the power. Well, in order to use a lightsaber, you need the force and able to use it. And he feels that, the force is such a strong thing to wield. This is why, picking up a lightsaber can be a little bit like heavy, and fighting with it was like so slow motion, because he feels like the force is such a this big heavy weight of a thing that it takes a lot of mental like ability to try to like wield a lightsaber and stuff like that. And so like for me personally, I like the over choreographed stuff because I like action. Like I said before, growing up, I didn't like Star Wars at all. And I've watched all the movies, I just didn't like them. But it was the original prequel lightsaber fights that got me kind of intrigued by them. But it was the Mandalorian that really got me interested into Star Wars, and I've been watching a lot of stuff ever since. And so the more choreographed like lightsaber fights and this and that, and like the storytelling of the first two seasons of The Mandalorian is what really got like this non-Star Wars fan into Star Wars. And so doing that worked. But for a lot of other people, it's not working for them. Like, a lot of Star Wars stuff is going more towards female. And I know Kathleen Kennedy said, the future of Star Wars is like female and stuff like that. And the older fans didn't like hearing that. They've hated her ever since. And so, like, don't worry, I'm going to get to the point of like this poster. Don't worry. And so, like, they feel like, this is for them and not for everybody else. Here's the thing, you can make something for other people, it don't matter. You just have to make sure they actually watch. And that's kind of a bit of a problem and kind of the point of like this poster. When you do start to expand out to a different audience and try to like rope them in, you have to make sure they actually like what they're watching. It can be catered for them, but that don't mean they're gonna watch. And that's kind of something with modern Hollywood right now during the time of woke culture. Hollywood started to expanding beyond that of like white straight people. They started to expand to black people, Latinos, Asian people, the LGBT, and women. And we've seen lots of projects that are very heavily influenced by those different groups and stuff. But a lot of those projects end up like not doing so well. Some are like huge flops and some of them have moderate success. And so, and of course, a lot of the reasons why a lot of that stuff do bad is for like a multiple different reasons. One, it could be the writing. Two, it could be the acting. Three, it could be the creative control. Four, it could be the direction. Five, the toxic people. And then six, it's the people it caters to that just simply aren't watching. And so why aren't people watching? Like I've noticed that some movies will make an all Latino movie or television show, and then it gets canceled or it flops because Latino people did not come out to see it. Same thing with like a black show or like a black movie or like a female-led project or an LGBT project. The people they cater to just simply just won't go to the movie theaters and watch it, or they just won't turn the television on and watch it. They rebooted Party of Five back in around 2015-16. But they rebooted it with an all Latino cast and based it on like current politics of like immigration. Needless to say, it got canceled after one season. Latinos just didn't want to watch it. I guess they felt like it was kind of pandering to them and everything. Or maybe they just didn't want to watch something that was too hard on the nose and made them a little upset. And that's something I've noticed about a lot of other like Latino-led projects. A lot of Latino people just don't watch them for some reason. A lot of Asian-led projects, a lot of Asian people don't watch them. They'll put the black person in the lead. Black people won't watch it and stuff like that. And so it's the people pick and choose what they want to watch for whatever reason. And so it does bad, and people complain, and they say, oh, go woke, go broken, blah, 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 blah. All that crybaby stuff. So to this poster and everything, clearly, okay, when I watched the trailer, like I said before, it has a teen drama vibe. I like teen dramas and everything. They're pretty cool. But when it comes to teen dramas, I want to watch a teen drama that's supposed to have teens in it, as in like adults playing teens and stuff like that. When I watch Star Trek, guess what? I want to watch Star Trek. I don't want to see a teen drama and everything. And that's the way the trailer for this show very much felt like. I'm already like on the fence because it's set after Discovery. I'm already on the fence because they're bringing back certain people from Discovery I just don't like Jet Reno. I'm sorry, I just don't like her. She didn't do nothing on the show. They're bringing back the holographic doctor, who I do like, but I wonder how his hollow matrix is still up and running after so many centuries and stuff. Then you got the show itself, and everybody's acting like a bunch of horny young adults and going through the woe is me dramas and this and that. I don't want to hear that. So already it's disconnected from me and makes me not want to watch it. Then I see this poster and it just reminds me this just looks like something from the CW or like the WB. And I did not watch CW or WB drama type shows. They just wasn't for me. Every time one would come on, I would turn the channel and everything. I would hear about it. I know who's like starring in it, but I just don't watch that kind of stuff. It just doesn't cater to me. It doesn't excite me and everything. And so this is supposed to excite those type of people who like those type of dramas, who likes those rebooted stuff of classics like Melrose Place and 90210. I like the original Melrose Place. I like the original 90210, but I will never watch the rebooted stuff. And so, like, the question is, those people that they're catering to who likes those, like, rebooted CW, WB, like, teen dramas and adult dramas, will they actually watch this? That is the big question, because if they do not, then this is a failed experiment. And you do have to experiment every once in a while, but sometimes you just have to play it safe. And so with that, it's kind of like, do you really expect those cool kids in a new generation who made fun of Star Trek and everything? Do you really think they're gonna watch it? I mean, back in the day, 30 something years ago, the cool kids made fun of Star Trek. They did not watch Star Trek. 30 something years later in the present day are the new cool kids who act very much like the older cool kids. Are they gonna watch this? Probably not, because it's Star Trek. It's still gonna have elements of Star Trek in it, and they're not gonna like that. I remember this one dude on YouTube I used to talk to back in the day. We used to always talk about shows and movies and stuff like that. And I think I showed him like a video of Jerry Ryan as 7 of 9. And I remember him telling me he only watched Star Trek Voyager because of 7 of 9, because of how hot Jerry Ryan is, but he could not stay watching the show and turned it off because he hates Star Trek. So I always think about that. So it's kind of like when they do cater to this new audience of like a teen, young adult drama and everything, are they actually gonna watch this, you know? And I don't think they will. I just don't. Because that dude who likes Jerry Ryan's body couldn't even watch Star Trek Voyager long enough to continue watching her in it. It's kind of like the Disney Plus Goosebumps show. It was catered to a YA audience, a young adult drama audience. The whole show was a YA drama that just crammed in like goosebump monsters and stuff. A failed experiment that lasted for 2 seasons. It was a dreadful, horrible show. I did not like it. It was just awful. And I love Goosebumps and I love like drama, like teen dramas and stuff. But meshing them together just did not work. And it didn't work for other people because they didn't come back for the second season and it got canceled. Now, this show's already been renewed for a second season before it even comes out next year. So, with this long video I've just now talked about, I think it's okay to experiment and it's okay to like try new things. But at some point in time, you gotta kind of stay in your own lane. If your fandom has died out and they're no longer interested in the same thing over and over and over again, then you need to get that spark back in a way that makes them want to come back. And like they did with the JJ stuff. But doing something like this is just gonna kind of make some Star Trek fans moan and groan and cringe. Cause this picture looks very cringe worthy, like it just does. You know what I'm saying? Now, if they were to make this show and not make it Star Trek and just have like human looking people, then people would probably like tune in and watch and stuff like that, you know, which is probably what they should have done. I've always been curious about what a Starfleet like Academy show would be about. I always assume it will be like they learn something in the classroom, somebody's having a difficult time, then they have to go to the holodeck and act it out. It's like a life-death situation. They're having a hard time passing. And eventually they talk to like, you know, their mentor and they mentor them. And then, oh, all of a sudden they're able to pass towards the end of the episode. And then they go like on field trips to actual star like ships. And they be put in peril situations where, you know, a lot of the bridge crew is like, you know, stranded somewhere and it's up to them to try to help save the day. To me, that sounds a heck of a lot more exciting. Just saying. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.